we are going to show the process on how we're going to clean your salt cell chlorinator. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this customer's automation box. Some customers are going to have an automation, some will have their pump just on a breaker. So we need to make sure that we turn this pump off and that it's not going to come back on us. We are going to put our Pentair system here into service mode. It's going to come on to service. You can hear that our pump over here has stopped. If you have a pool that does not have an automation system, your simplest way is to flip your breaker. That's going to guarantee us that your pump is not going to come on when we're cleaning this salt cell. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm going to verify that our equipment here is above the water level. If it was below the water level, we're gonna come and we're gonna close all 3 of your valves on your suction side, and we are gonna close your valve on your return side. It's super important if your equipment is underneath the pool water level that you close all those valves. I'm gonna bring out just a little small, it's basically a filter wrench. And we're gonna come over here and we're gonna take the salt cell off of the system. These seem to work great. You can also use a wrench. So we're gonna loosen this. We are going to loosen our other one over here. And it's good to loosen those kind of one at a time, because if you loosen one too much, this one will just make the salt cell spin. We're gonna get this salt cell off. Little white on the inside of the fins here. That's natural. It's going to get a little bit of calcium buildup in it. That's what we're here to clean out. So I have a Pentair salt cell cleaner. Really all this is just a union like we have on our pipes here with the gasket, so that I can screw it onto the bottom here. So now what we are going to do, I always use a bucket. I'm using muriatic acid here. If it gets on any of your concrete, it's going to be corrosive to your concrete. Another reason why I'm wearing gloves, because it's pretty rough on the skin. If you do not have one of the salt cell tools to screw on there, it's not that big of a deal. You can still clean it. You basically just kind of run your acid through, dump it through, and just make sure it's in a bucket here. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna take this out. That is gonna be your screen. That just kind of keeps like large debris from kind of going in and damaging your fins here. And as you can see, if you look a little closer into my salt cell here, I've got a lot of calcium buildup on this side. You can see down in there. When you get that calcium buildup on these fins, your salt cell will start reading really off with your salt content. It could cause your salt cell to stop chlorinating altogether, because your salt content's going to be all over the place on your reading. So we really need to kind of have that cleared out. And it's also going to cause your pump to not work efficiently, because those fins are kind of clogged up, and they're not, you know, flowing through like they're supposed to. Very simple process. I have some muriatic acid here, pre-diluted. It's about 1 quart of acid for about a gallon of water. We're just gonna dump it straight in till it's over the top of our fins. And you can actually see the acid working in here as it's bubbling. It'll start bubbling and just killing all that calcium. So I'm just gonna kind of let this sit about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, just kind of let that acid work on that calcium buildup in there. While you're doing that, since we're over here, we can open our pump baskets here. We can kind of check those out, see if there's any buildup or anything in there. Just, you know, something to do while you're waiting. So when we're opening these baskets, again, the reason why I say this is a great time is because your pump is shut off. If you open these when your pump is on, it's just going to start spraying everywhere. These are a closed system, they're pressurized, and it'll just really start pushing all your water out. The other important thing, again, if we're below water and we're opening these pump baskets, we need to make sure these valves are closed so we don't dump pool into your equipment area here, basically. I like to, when I pull them off, if I don't have valves closed or we're above ground, I like to put the lid back on after I have taken the basket out, just because it keeps your system pressurized when you're kind of cleaning your basket out. I'm gonna put the basket back in here. We're gonna check and see how our salt cell's doing. Okay, I'm gonna pick this up very carefully, and I'm just gonna dump the acid back out. And then I'm gonna inspect and see how our salt cell looks. Sometimes you do have to dump twice. This one actually looks fantastic. If you do have some calcium still built up, definitely dump back in there one more time, let it clean. But this one's super clean, as you can see here. We got everything out of the fins. And now I'm going to take my tool off here. I'm going to just put it here in my bucket. I'm gonna make sure I put my screen back in, but before I do that, I'm gonna rinse it off just ever so slightly. I'm also gonna take my hose and I'm gonna just run some water through my salt cell, on the outside of my salt cell, for any acid that we may have got on the salt cell or inside the salt cell when we were cleaning. Acid, very, very corrosive, and if you get it on your concrete, it will eat your concrete and it will eat a hole. So make sure that we do not get acid on the concrete. Because I'm just gonna take the salt cell, I'm gonna set it up here. You can set it wherever you want. I like to use magic lube, just kind of help your seals kind of seat and seal. And when we're putting it on, sometimes these seals will bundle up or pinch or do something like that, and then you're gonna have a leak. So I'm gonna run a little tiny bit on my finger, and I'm gonna run this right around our seals here, both sides. Then we're ready to put our salt cell back on. These are the Pentaires. They are specific flows. So we want to make sure that our flow arrow, which is on our salt cell right here, and then inside here is our flow switch. It has to be depressed in order for this to work. We want to make sure that that flow is going into the return side of your pool, not towards your suction side. We're gonna put this on. I'm gonna tighten one side just a little bit, tighten my other side just a little bit, and we're gonna do that as we go here. It's very, very important, again, to make sure that we're tightening these evenly, because as you're tightening, it pulls the salt cell in. If you have one side that's super tight and another side that's not, it will leak. Couple turns on one side, couple turns on the other side, all the way until we get tight. I'm gonna go back to my wrench here. Usually do not need to be tightened too much. You tighten them too much, you risk cracking your union here, you risk breaking your pipe. So we're just gonna basically kind of a hand tight. Okay, salt cell is reinstalled. A little clarification on your flow side and your suction side, or your return side and your suction side. So your suction side is always going to be in front of the inlet of your pump, okay? Which means it's gonna suck your water out of the pool through your pump, and then it's gonna come out here into your filters, out of your filters into your heater, out of your heater, and it's gonna run back through your salt cell, which we always wanna make sure that this salt cell is after the heater. If it is before the heater, it will chlorinate your heater and you'll be blowing through heaters in no time, because that chlorine and these chemicals are very, very, very corrosive. That's the way you can tell what your suction and what your return side is. So you always want to make sure that your arrow on your Pentaire, or on your Pentaire specifically, your Pentaire salt cell, is facing towards where your pool is going to return, where your water is going to return into your pool. I'm gonna make sure that we open all of our valves back up before we even think about turning the pump on. If you turn the pump on and these valves are all closed, you're gonna blow your pipe up. So we're gonna open, we're gonna open, and we're gonna open. And we can adjust these as needed. This customer does have a crawler vacuum, so we'll adjust our main drains to make that, basically make that crawler crawl a little bit better there. So I've got everything in. We're tight here. Make sure that's tight. Make sure our pump basket lid's tight. Make sure our valves are open. Then we can come back over to our automation system. We're either going to flip the breaker back on, which is going to turn your pump on, or with this automation system, we're going to hit mode. This is the Pentaire Easy Touch. It's going to go into timeout mode, and then it's going to go into auto mode. We're going to make sure it says auto, and then this does take just about 30 seconds or so. It'll start firing up, and then we're just gonna check and make sure that we're not leaking anywhere. Okay, we did have a little leak on our system here. I don't like to go super tight when we first tighten these, just basically hand tight, and then if we need to adjust them, then we can adjust them tighter. You can break these unions and you can break your pipe very easily if you over tighten these. So start with, you know, just hand tight, And then if we need to tighten them a little bit more, we'll tighten them a little bit more. Nothing's leaking out of our salt cell here anymore. And then the salt cell, it's gonna think for just a little bit. You're gonna have your lights flashing back and forth, your red and your green on here. You can kind of see. The other important thing is to make sure that our flow is green as well. So make sure we got flow, and then just give it some time. It'll come back to where it's supposed to be, and we'll make sure everything's working. So because I did open my system up here, we probably took a little bit of air in. I always like to just check your pressure relief valve or your bleeder valve on top of your filters here. This is very pressurized, so if you open it, just open it a little bit until it comes out, and then we're good to go. As a final step, I do just like to go test our water here with a salt strip. I'm gonna test the water first, and that's the important thing always, because these electronics and automation and things like that, they can read wrong or different or bad or anything like that. Your true test is always gonna be what your water is gonna tell you. 2 seconds. Okay, and then I'm gonna give this about 15 to 20 seconds for my test strip to kind of read here. We are looking somewhere in the neighborhood between probably 2,500 and 3,500. So now we'll go to our automation here, and we'll try to get a reading on where we're at for salt content. This one with our automation system is going to actually tell us where our salt content is. If you do not have an automation system, I'll go over how you can check and make sure everything's functioning properly. So we're gonna go to menu. We're gonna toggle down to diagnostics. We're gonna select diagnostics. We are gonna go into Chlorinator, and we're gonna go here. It's telling me about 3950, which my test strip was reading a little bit lower than that, but they will kind of vary. As long as our salt is between 2,800 and about 4,000 is where these Pentaires, Haywards, most of your salt cells are going to be happy. If it's very high, if it's over 4,000, maybe 4,500, that's when your salt cell's really going to start getting more and more and more of that calcium. So if you don't have an automation and you just have the Pentaire system here, you can come here on your salt cell, and it will actually show you if your salt is good. It will be green. If it is flashing, that means your salt's high. And if it's on the low and it's red, that will mean that your salt is low and you need to add some salt. If your salt content is ever too high, the only way to fix that is to drain the pool down and fill it back up. You do not have to drain it all the way, about halfway. Fill it back up, will bring your content down. That's why a lot of people, what'll happen is they'll start reading off of what our electronics are saying, and it'll be wrong because maybe the salt cell's gummed up, or we have another issue. Always, always, always check any of your chemicals on the water, because the water is gonna tell you what the true story is, whereas electronics, we all know, they can fail or they can read wrong for whatever specific reason. We do sell all of your chemical needs, your tools, anything you're gonna need to do your home pool. Check out our link for our website below here. And that's gonna wrap up our salt cell cleaning. Very simple process, probably 30 minutes or under. Just again, pay attention to your details. Don't over tighten things, and make sure you're closing valves or turning the pumps off. And our next video, cleaning filters and replacing filters. Check it out.